everybody, and welcome to the Patty G Show. I am your host, Patty G, here with GMFS's own T. Brown. We're going to learn about what they're doing in the community, how they got started, and a little bit of the back history, as well as some of the community involvement they've been doing in recent years, what they've got planned in the future, and just all around the Baton Rouge community and what's going on. Before we get started, just a reminder, this show is sponsored by Alvarez Construction. We love what they're doing. We love how they're being in the community, and I'm sure that T is going to have some homogenous stories behind it with our sponsors and everything else going on. So welcome, T. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me here.
Absolutely. I appreciate it of your time for coming out to Uncle Earl's and sitting down with me for another hour and chatting.
By the way, your sponsors are fantastic. The Alvarez,
oh my gosh, yes.
Great group, amazing product, and fantastic family.
Oh yeah, what they've got going on with the St. Jude Dream Home is just incredible.
Yep.
So, but we're here to talk about GMFS. So what is GMFS for those that may not be aware?
Well, we're a mortgage company. We're based here in Baton Rouge. We started in 1999, and we have over 300 employees. We're in 8 states. Principally, our focus is in the Louisiana market on our retail side. We have a third-party origination platform where we buy loans from other brokers or mortgage companies in the 6-state area. And we've been very fortunate. We started with 24 employees in 1999. There were 4 of us that left an organization, including my father, that we were very significant part of, that had an untimely and unfortunate demise. But we had to pick our, we had to do what we had to do, and we started GMFS, and it's been an amazing almost 22 years. It'll be 22 years. We opened our doors on May 3rd, 1999, and like I tell people, we've had 19 and a half good ones, 2.5 really, challenging years. First, 6 months we started was difficult, and then, the year and a half, 2 years during 2007, 2008, which was difficult for so many businesses, and certainly our business as a mortgage company. We were leading indicators to the demise of the economy,
right?
And so we were somewhat responsible as an industry for what ended up happening. But it's been great. We've been really fortunate, and one of the things that we as an organization have been focused on from the very beginning is GMFS, changing lives, and
right,
and that means something other than just a tagline to us. It means for us, it's how do we first change the lives of our employees? Because if we can change the lives of our employees are engaged and want to change the lives of our customers. And then with that, we can change the community that we're involved in. And that's something that's really significant to us.
Absolutely. And then the jingle just plays in your head all day long. We were talking about it yesterday on our show before we got started. And they said, who's tomorrow's guest? I said, we got T. Brown coming from GMFS. And we started singing the song. It's still been in my head all day long. So the marketing works well with that jingle. But so how do you even get started with a mortgage company? I mean, in 99, this is pre the technology that we're accustomed to today. What do those steps look like from getting started?
Well, so my grandfather started a company in 1948 and ran it for many years, became a public company. My father ran it. And was responsible for it until really March 1st of 99. And the Russian ruble and long-term management capital and the financial markets froze, and we were securitizing mortgages at the time. The business was sound, but the financial structure that we were operating in was not. And so it became somewhat of a death spiral where we weren't able to securitize the loans. We had financial covenants that we were responsible for, and we weren't able to meet those, and ultimately the company went into bankruptcy. I ran a small piece of that called Ginger May, and Jeff Weston, Billy Maxwell, and Tom DeArmond were 4 of my partners, along with my dad, that when United Companies failed, we took part of our Ginger May group and started GMFS. And we were 30, 31, and 32 years old.
Oh wow! So this is young.
We were young, but we were fearless. We didn't have any other. We didn't know what else to do, right? So we raised, through family and some friends, $1.5 million, and started GMFS, and had 24 employees when we started, and we had folding tables when we opened. We were the first new tenant in Bon Carré. It was Bon Marché, became Bon Carré. And we looked like we were a FEMA operation. I mean, seriously, it was 24 folding tables we bought from Sam's. Our server was under one of the desks, certainly not protocol today's world of security. But And, we just started getting on the phone, got on the road, and we went and saw some of our old customers and started a direct-to-consumer business and just had to figure it out. And so we've been very fortunate with a lot of, it's all about people, right? It's about people that we work with and people that we're involved with and our customers. And, we've really been blessed in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. And that's the conversation around starting something when you're young and you have that bold, that ambitious spirit within you that you may not have experienced failure in the past. So you don't know what it is. So you're not afraid to say, hey, let's buy some folding tables and let's stuff a server underneath it, which at the time was, much more bulky than we have now. Now you can fit a server in like something the size.
Or in the cloud.
Yeah. Or all in the cloud. Not even have a server, right? But it's that fear that you kind of have to overcome as an entrepreneur to start something, especially that big. You're talking about we're going to start lending out money to people to buy a home. Like it's not just, you're selling, a beer or you're selling this. It's like, no, we're going to mortgage out this valuable piece of property that people are going to live in. Yep. Like if something goes wrong, their livelihood, their lives are in jeopardy and it's on us. And it's like when you sit back and I'm sure if you analyze that at a younger age before you started, like, whoa, man, we don't want to do this.
No, you're right. In the same sense, if we're unsuccessful in the credit that we write, we end up having losses.
Right.
And so we can be out of business quick.
Yeah.
Too.
100%.
So you got to balance to making sure you're doing right by your customers as well as right by the financial obligations that you have to the company.
Yeah. And so you went through that initial round of raising friends and family funds. That is, for some entrepreneurs, a very crucial time. How did you, I guess, kind of have the guts or the knowledge to think, hey, let me go ask my friends and family for some money? Were you promising them anything? For entrepreneurs trying to get started, they need to know, like, hey, do we have to promise them anything, or is just, hey, give me money and watch me succeed?
Well, at that time we had about a 60-day period of time that we needed to get open because we were going to lose some of our opportunities. And ironically, Michael Hackett and Brother Hackett and our first office that we had while we were waiting to move into Boncaray was above the animal clinic on Perkins Road. So we were upstairs of that animal clinic trying to negotiate contracts, and dogs are barking downstairs. And so Brother Hackett was very gracious to give us, 30 days for us to kind of come and go in a place to be able to use the telephone and do that. But I think for us at the time, it's like we had a sense that we needed to get going and we needed to go and we really didn't have none of us really wanted to go work for another company. We all had an opportunity to kind of be a little independent and have that kind of feel of where, we had some control of the things that were going on, and we wanted to take full control of the things that were going on. And, fortunately it worked out. But I think for young entrepreneurs, I'm fortunate to have an opportunity. I've been involved in Brew, and I mentioned to you earlier that we started the J. Terrell Brown Venture Challenge at LSU, or not started it, but we've helped endow that, and that's a significant opportunity for young college kids that are entrepreneurs to be able to come and pitch their ideas and get some feedback. And I think it's part of it is just when you see these young, or even not just young, any entrepreneur for that matter, that they have an idea that they're passionate about, and they're willing to just make the steps that they have to in order to succeed. They're willing to sacrifice, and the sacrifice that goes into being an entrepreneur, you're not getting paid much. You're spending a lot of time. You're stressed out. You've got a lot of anxiety.
Sleeping.
You're definitely not sleeping. But you're passionate about whatever it is that is your call, and that's fun for us, having had that opportunity once to be involved and really starting a business. And I would encourage anybody. I think that probably, I got my banking finance degree. I got an MBA, but until you have to make payroll, until you really have to sit there and say, we have payroll coming Friday.
And we have employees.
How are we, what are the decisions that we're going to make in order to, because that's an obligation, right? Once you take on an employee, that's an obligation you have to them. They have an obligation to you to perform, but you have an obligation to them to provide them the opportunity that you promised that right. You were going to provide.
Yeah. And that's for every entrepreneur, you're okay with working for free because you have that vision, that push to get to the end goal or to grow the business. But an employee, they're trying to make a living, and unless you've got some employees or you've got a unique pay structure with benefit package and everything for, some ownership and some skin in the game. They're only there to do their job, to make sure the company moves smoothly. You're there to make sure it grows and they can come tomorrow.
Right.
You got to make sure that everybody still has the ability to show up tomorrow, and that at the end of the week, you can sign that check knowing that they're not all going to bounce.
You're right.
And some entrepreneurs, it's come Friday, they're freaking out. They're having to move money from their personal account that they've been saving, to make that payroll. Because, like you said, at the end of the day, you have an obligation as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, to make payroll.
You do, and our biggest asset as an organization are the employees, right? And again, like you said, they have a choice. Every day they go home and they can decide whether they want to come back to work. Mm-hmm. They don't have to come back to work with us.
Yeah,
they can go somewhere else. And we want to make sure we provide an environment for them that they really want to come, and they want to encourage other people to come. And they're proud to be part of the organization, and that's why I think being involved in giving back to your community and doing the things that you can, during different periods of our time in these 22 years, we've been able to do more or less just because of the financial success of the business.
Right.
And, so we take advantage of the times when things are good and do as much as and more than we possibly can. And that's where the pandemic really for us, and this was about, I guess, a week or so, a year ago, it was what would have been St. Patty's Day.
We all remember that weekend. I remember that weekend very well.
And I was talking to our management group, some of the guys I mentioned already and others, and I said, guys, this is really shaping up to be something that we've never experienced. I mean, you go to the grocery store and there's not a roll of toilet paper on the shelf, and people are just really pulling back and moving into their homes and kind of isolating and fear. There's so much fear here. And, we started talking about the businesses that were going to be most impacted. And for us, because of the uncertainty, interest rates dropped substantially.
Yeah, which is great from the consumer end.
And so we realized that there would be a great opportunity for people to refinance. Our business was kind of on an upward trajectory. And so we said, let's talk about restaurants, right? We knew restaurants were going to be significantly impacted because things are going to be shut down.
What's the hospitality industry? The stuff that's not necessary. It's not what was the term that they used for workers?
Non-essential.
Non-essential. That's what it was. It was a non-essential business because people could cook at home. But within South Louisiana, the hospitality industry is
essential.
Huge. It's essential. It is essential here.
Yeah.
It's essential here.
It is. That's part of our culture. And so we came up with the idea that we'd want to start supporting the restaurants. And first thing we did is we realized that, the homeless, with people being fearful of COVID and being exposed to anybody for that matter. And so through our relationships with Patrick Valuza and Stephen Hightower, we coordinated with St. Vincent de Paul to deliver 300 meals for lunch and dinner for 2 weeks down to, actually it's 500 for lunch and dinner for 2 weeks down to St. Vincent de Paul.
A lot of meals.
So it's around 8,000 meals that we were delivered, they provided, we helped, we financed. They of course took a piece of that by reducing their cost. And it was great because we finished after 2 weeks, and then there was another benefactor that said, hey, that's a great idea. I'd like to continue it on for another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so that was just kind of our first foray into that. And so, of course, we've done the BR serving, and we've done some opportunities of serving the police with Mangiuni's of 600 meals. And, one of the things that you start, when you start doing that, the feeling that you get is you get fulfilled, right? There's a fulfillment 100%. To that.
It is fulfillment, and it's realizing that not every industry was hit the same.
Right.
We explain it within, so the accounting world that I'm in, right, is your financials still have to go out. You still have to file a tax return. For a restaurant to close down for 2 weeks, that is 2 weeks of meals they're not getting back.
Right.
Like, for example, for Uncle Earl's to be closed down for so long, that's people walking through the door, they can't get back. The numbers just don't work out. But for some businesses, it's like some businesses started thriving through COVID because of just their business model, or they pivoted and they learned how to go about. So it's those that are doing well, recognize how they can give back to then help build what Baton Rouge is all about as community is massive. And then you start building this chain reaction like we were talking before, is you start doing something, somebody else wants to start doing something, and then you see this community really come together, which we've seen over the past year, and how strong Baton Rouge is. And what we love are the people, and we love taking care of people.
We really do. And, you know, our good friends at Guarantee Broadcasting, Flynn Falsher, used to work with us and been a long lifetime friend of ours. And we heard that they were going to do a deal with the food bank, and they were going to put up $25,000 and work on getting people to match that. So we're like, well, that's a great idea. We want to join y'all in that. So we'll put up $25,000. And so collectively, we promoted, they promoted it, and we ended up getting a total of $125,000 for the food bank.
Wow.
And so then also a friend of ours, John D'Angelo at Investar Bank, he was working with the Urban League on doing micro grants, and he committed $100,000. And I called John. I said, John, that's a great idea. I mean, that's super. And they ended up getting $1 million. We put up $50,000, but they ended up getting $1 million for micro grants that the Urban League is distributing to disadvantaged businesses. And so a lot of the things aren't our ideas. You know, some of the stuff that we're just say, hey, we want to get on board, right?
Exactly. It's like we said, it's the power of one. The power of one person to say, hey, let's do this idea in the community. Let's help people out. Let's grow the community. Let's do what we can. And then everybody else kind of trickles in and says, well, great, we'll get behind you. We'll back you. We'll support you. And it's that support system that's so powerful here in the local area.
No, it's been a great opportunity for us to get to know a lot of small businesses. And you know Michael Hackett, and Michael's joined us as our community development, not just a liaison, but executive. And you know, there's a bank that we do a lot of business with that's based out of Dallas, and they have a lot of community branches throughout the West. And I happened to get this email, and it was talking about their Go Local effort, and so in their communities, and they have this opportunity where people could go into a local restaurant and they register, and then they get drawn for, they do it for during the Christmas holiday, and they do a drawing for $200, whatever. And so Mike and I were talking about, I said, this is a great idea. I said, so what we want to do is we want to do a Go Local here in Baton Rouge, but we don't want to do it for a month. We want to do it for 6 months, a year, maybe forever.
Yeah.
And so we're committed to doing this Go Local. We have over 100 businesses that are part of it. And every month we draw 2 people that have gone to one of these local businesses and registered. And each of them, whoever gets drawn or wins, gets a $500 gift card. And
which is huge.
Yeah. And so it's been great. We've had 2 drawings. So we've had 4 winners, and it's been really neat to see, the response from those folks and kind of in the businesses. And so we're now starting a competition, not competition, but where the businesses,
competitive in nature.
Where the more people register from that business, the greater chance that business is going to have an opportunity to win, every month a free lunch for that business. And so, and we're doing commercials with them, and it's just really been a great way to kind of intertwine, what we're doing with the community and what they need. And so I'm sure you know Jenny Peters. And so she came to us with an idea with the Children's Hospital. And it's a program where we're trying to encourage the patients to do the rehabilitation and inspiring them to, with a little checklist, and achieve it. And so as they go along the way, at the end of their successful completion, they'll get a pair of shoes. Okay. And so they get bandanas, they get T-shirts, they get all these little prizes along the way. And the nurses participate too. And so the nurses end up getting a pair of shoes. And so it's been going on for about 3 months, and it's really impactful.
Oh yeah, and it's the little things like that. You don't need all this money to come in and do all this at one time. It's making the small effort that then grows to have this massive impact, which is what GMFS is doing. It's little pieces that y'all are putting in place now to then have other people come in and follow. And then at the end of the day, everybody in Baton Rouge is building the community up. We're all trying to grow it together because we all live here. We all work here. So let's make it a better place for everyone involved.
Absolutely. I mean, it's important to us, right? I mean, we have we have 50,000 customers we service, probably about 25,000 in the greater Baton Rouge area. Mm-hmm. And so the more successful this community is, then the greater opportunity is for folks to continue to see their homes appreciate and generate the wealth that they want and the comfort that they want and the stability that they need.
Yeah. And then on the flip side, you've got, you said 300 employees working for you. So you're touching probably 1,500 mouths.
Yep.
You're feeding 1,500 people in the local community just by employing those 300. We had Sebastian and I had that conversation when he was on, was how many mouths do you touch within your business? Think about that when you look at your employees. It's like, hey, we're making an impact. Why does the entrepreneur, why does a business owner get up every single day? They get up to make the impact of their employees, because how far that reach alone is. Not just the reach of all the customers you have, the 25,000 or the 50,000 customers you got, it's the people that are work for you.
Absolutely.
You're impacting them, and then they're putting their money back in the economy. If they know that you've got these deals going on that you can win $500 worth of gift cards, they're going to go and spend money there. Sure. And they're going to tell their friends, and it's just this community, which I love seeing that community aspect self-grow within itself.
You're right. We used to a year ago, a week from now, we had over 200 employees in our operations center. And so that Monday or Sunday when the governor announces that if you're not an essential employee, non-essential employees have to, I consider myself an essential employee the whole time,
That's right.
only because I can't work from home.
Yeah. For XYZ reasons. we won't go there.
That's right.
I still have a piece of paper in my truck that says I'm an essential employee.
I was like, I've got to go to work. And so, we moved everybody on Monday. We was like, look, everybody needs to go. And we've had people work remotely, but we never had, 250 people work remotely.
Which is huge. I mean, that's the amount of computers you got to make sure everybody has, the amount of the processing capability. Your server, whether in the cloud or physical, has to be able to compute and handle that many people dialing in from different IP addresses, different servers.
It was a disaster for the first 4 hours, and only 4 hours.
Really?
And so I was talking to our IT guys, and they're like, "Well, what's going on?" I said, "Well, we need more servers." I said, "Well, how much are servers?" They said, "Well, they're in a package, like they're all in the cloud. They don't cost us anything more than what we already pay." I said, "Well, give everybody a server." I'll just add as many servers as we need. And they did. And I mean, it's been seamless, largely since then. And one of the things that's come from this, and people talk about what do you see the future of your office? And I see the future of our office being very, very flexible. We have many people that are working. They may be across the river. They may be in Ascension or Central or even just, the southern part of Baton Rouge. And it's 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 45 minutes to get to the office. And they've said many times, I'm more productive. I can have more flexibility of my hours. I can get up early. I can do it this period of time. I can take my kid to school. And it gives them that opportunity to be able to kind of manage their day. The only thing I worry about is culture, right? I mean, just how do we continue to keep the culture that we're very proud of and something that we're very, very focused on. And not for the folks that have been longtime employees, because I think we still can continue to keep that. It's for a lot of the new folks that we've hired that have not had the experience of what our organization was, the family aspect of what the family organization was. And so.
Yeah, it's the people at home, especially if they're new, they don't know, is this the norm? Right. And people had to make the shift early on to work remotely. Like we, as an accounting firm, we were mostly, be in the office, work with paper, work with this, work with that. And for us to shift to go entirely virtual I think we went virtual for 2 months.
Yeah.
And it was a major shift. I was on the IT side and having to make sure everybody was able to log in, everybody was able to sync up, everybody had a computer to do so. But having that shift to everybody going virtually instantly, some businesses didn't make it for 2 weeks and they had to figure it. They had to say, hey, take 2 weeks off, take a week off. We figure out what we have to do. And now it's like, a Zoom meeting. Yeah, easy peasy.
Yeah.
But what that does, and in turn, what we've seen from that is the growth that is attached to that virtual world. Not just because people don't have to drive there anymore. People don't have to go into office and spend 20 minutes on the road, 20 minutes back. Mm-hmm. You're 40 minutes away from your family. If you can spend that time, which is everyone's most valuable asset, with the people you love, that incentivizes your employees to be happier, healthier, and want to work for you longer. But from a business perspective, now that everybody is open and accepting of technology, I can Zoom with somebody across the world and it's normal. We can still have the same business formalities, the same meeting formalities that we would before, but now it's all virtual and everybody's more accepting of it. So instead of saying, oh, next time you're in town, let's catch up, let's chat. I have a friend in Nashville and we have virtual happy hours all the time now. And for our second time, we're like, why didn't we do this before? Why did it take a global pandemic for us to realize this is an option and this is okay? And it builds the relationships when you become accepting of that technology and you learn how to work it. And you're like, okay, this is not all that much different. Yeah, we're not physically here. And as humans, we're social creatures. But this is a way to bridge the gap for the time being. And I think coming from COVID and going into the next phase, whatever it may be, we're going to say, we've learned. Now, how can we refine that process?
Right. Exactly.
How can we build that company culture virtually? How can we build those relationships virtually and still maintain what we had pre-COVID? And that, I think, is the next step for businesses to look at. Because up until now, we've all just been surviving. Some have learned early on how to thrive because their business was originally set up for it. But now those that weren't set up for thriving are learning, okay, what do we have to do? What changes do we have to make to thrive in this economy, to thrive in this new normal that it is?
Yeah.
I mean, because it is a new normal that we're in, whether we go to phase 3 or phase 2.
And it seems like, with, million of, Louisiana citizens having received the vaccinations, we're well on the way of hopefully returning to something that we would consider normal. Right.
Right. I don't think it'll be a long time before we get to 15,000 people at a concert.
I would go.
Oh, I'd be there. I'd be there.
Oh, man.
I'd be there. But it's how do we get 15,000 people?
Well, you and I'll get good seats.
Oh, we'll get great seats. and that's, you're going to have that initially, that spark of everybody's, oh, yeah, I'm going. Yeah, I'm going. Yeah, I'm going. But it's how do we get back to that level where everyone wants to do it? And you don't get those that are looking at you like, wait, you went to that concert? Like, all right, you sit over there.
Yeah.
And how do you break that up to get back to it's not going to be a normal. It's going to be a new. Because the old is probably never going to come back. So it's what is our new? What does that look like? And how can we regain that sense of community in person? Because gosh, now if we can go to a phase 3 or whatever, by the time people are listening to the podcast of this, we might be in phase 3 because it'll come out 2 weeks from now. But for those that are like, oh yeah, now we're going to bars on Thursdays and Fridays. Now we're going to places that were originally closed are now open and we're loving it. And I think that is going to be something that people are just waiting to get back out in the community and do something.
No, I think so. I really do. I think that, and I think you're seeing that in a lot of areas, right?
Yeah.
You're seeing it you've seen it in Florida for an extended period of time. I think you've got, Texas and Mississippi are moving into a more aggressive,
little more aggressive.
No mask. We're going to go straight into,
100%
I don't care what phase we're in, but
back.
we're no mask. And so I think, that's a healthy spot to be going forward for everybody. I think the mask, while certainly, the purpose was there, it's such a disconnect and hardly recognize someone.
Yeah, it's you don't recognize the people anymore when they have them on because it covers up 30% of your face
at least,
and you're like, who is this person? Who are you? But then you're like, oh, I didn't recognize you with the mask on. Because we recognize people by their faces.
Absolutely. And I have a hard time hearing, so I got a lip read. So it's really difficult.
This mic is really doing wonders. Then.
It's really, really difficult for me with the mask.
Yeah, but it's okay. So we're moving. We're hopefully moving out of this, and with the interest rates being so low, getting back to GMFS, a lot of people refinanced. I know, we were in that crew that said, it makes feasible sense. How do you go about promoting that to people in a way that they're not scared? Because COVID's a terrifying moment, right?
Yep.
People don't want to make any change. They don't want to adjust anything. How do you get out there and incentivize them and encourage them to say, hey, it's going to benefit you in the long run to do something now and take advantage of this?
Well, we've been fortunate to have, historically low rates for really since, 2010. Now, they bumped up and down a little bit along the way, but we've had interest rates, 3% for an extended period of time. Now, recently we've seen them fall below 3%. And, it's for anyone that is planning on staying in their home for, another 2, 3, 4, 5 years, look, depending upon where your rate is, it's a mathematical equation, right? I can save $100 a month. I'm going to be here for this long of time, and it's going to cost me this amount of money to do it. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And it's a simple process. We're getting appraisal waivers to where you don't have to get appraisals. We're getting income waivers for people. So the process of getting a mortgage, especially on a refinance, is simplified significantly over the course of the last several years. And I would, what we're seeing too, when this pandemic hit, I knew that because of interest rates, we would see refinance activity. Now, we're also concerned about people's ability to refinance if they lost their job. And so there's a subset of the population that maybe hasn't been able to do that because they've had a job gap. They're going to be coming back in, and hopefully they can refinance and take advantage of that. But the purchase side of the business, people buying new homes, I was making a very strong assumption that we would see a significant decline, 50, 75% decline of people buying new homes when it first started. Like you couldn't go to open houses. Nobody wanted to leave their house. Who wants to get movers in their house to move them out? But it was amazing to me. We saw that the level of purchases, even from the beginning of the pandemic, begin to elevate. And we've seen that throughout this. And I think more and more people are spending time at home. They're looking and saying, maybe I need a bigger house. Maybe I want to add on. We're seeing a lot of renovation opportunities, a lot of pools.
Go there. Yeah, the renovations are huge.
Yeah, and so people aren't able to go and do as much as they had done a year ago. And so now I think many of them are like, we're going to put that money. We're not going to go take that trip to Disney World because that would be terrible to begin with.
We can't go. Or would it be great because you can only have 100 people there? No lines. Imagine Disney World with no lines.
And so we'll take the money we spend and we're going to make some enhancements to the house. And so, and that's good. That's good for the neighborhoods. That's good for the community. And I think people have kind of drawn back into the community today more so than we were a year ago. Just people are out walking more. People are seeing their neighbors more. People are spending a little bit more time, in their area.
People are going back to what is most important to them, which for a lot of people is family.
Yep.
Spending time with the ones they love, because in our normal 9-to-5 pace that we've had over this last year of COVID, before that, it was always running. Yeah. And we were going. We would wake up, go to work, come home, wake up, go to work, come home. It was a repeat process. And then COVID, for those that had to stay home, was like, oh, wow, this is a different pace.
Yeah.
Some people started new businesses, as our guest, yesterday, they started a new business in the midst of COVID because they couldn't go to work, they couldn't do anything, and had all this free time.
Yeah.
Others have been so fearful of losing their jobs, they've done whatever they could to make sure they kept their jobs. And others are like, you know what? My home really isn't that great to living here. My home's got a great bed.
Yep.
It's got a great bathroom. But I'm cooking a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm spending a lot more time in my den. And those ceilings are very low right now.
Right.
And so they've been looking into what can we do to make the home better. And then that's where it comes into the rebuild or the renovation.
Mm-hmm.
And then GMFS is coming in and saying, hey, great.
Yep.
We can help you out with that,
And we can. And that's been, our construction department has been something we started about 7-8 years ago. And it's overwhelmed with the amount of opportunities right now, whether it be, renovating, doing a renovation to your home, which we handle, or building a new home. It's really exciting to see. That group is such a strong group, and their ability to work with the builders and the borrowers and keep that process going has been phenomenal.
Yeah, because that's the most important side of when you're going to purchase a home or going to do any type of renovation or acquisition or whatever, is that financing side. Because that's the main thing that they ask you as a realtor is going to ask the buyer. Okay, well, do you have financing in place?
That's right.
Can you put in a solid offer? Is your offer valid? And sometimes they'll call the lender or they'll call the banker and say, hey, is this a good offer? Can we count on it? Because they want to make sure that if they spend the time as a realtor with this person, or that if the contractor spends time with this individual, that at the end of the day, they're also going to get paid.
No, there's no question about it. It's one of the first things we do with anyone that we're in touch with is, get your pre-qualification. We say this. We used to do a radio show talking about financial education. and that's critically important. We'll get to that in a second. But if you're looking to buy a home, the first thing you need to do is figure out what you can afford, what you're comfortable affording. What you can afford and what you're comfortable affording can be two different things.
That's right.
And so know what you need to put down. What is the down payment requirement? What is the monthly, your monthly note? What is the insurance? What are the taxes going to be? So get your full picture of what the cost and obligations are, so that you can make that decision when you go out there. And then when you see that house, you can execute and react very quickly and know I've got everything set up. I'm gonna hit the bid, tell them to put the purchase agreement in, and be done with it. But I think financial education is something that we've been advocating to be in public schools forever, or in schools forever. We see oftentimes, young people, even older people, not fully appreciating the impact that, building their credit can have on their life. The difference between having good credit and credit that's subpar is significant when it comes to cost of insurance, buying a car, what your interest rate is going to be on the car, even getting a house. If you get a house, what would the rate be for that? And so it just goes throughout the whole economic impact on that bar. And with bad credit, you're fighting to climb out of it, and the financial difficulties are made so much worse because of the cost of borrowing.
Yeah, and that's understanding your financial picture is huge. I spent a lot of time, I got my degree in accounting, entrepreneurship, and in accounting, we're expected to know and be experts on all this stuff. But when you sit down with a client and you sit down with a potential client and you start asking certain questions, and at the rate in which people don't fully understand their financial situation can for some be alarming. Mm-hmm. It's like, wait, you don't know what, to me, with this skewed mindset of an accountant is like, well, you don't know X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, not everybody's going to know exactly everything. And so it's how can you as a lender, how can you as a firm, how can you as a business educate your customers so they do know as much as they need to know and can know for their specific circumstance.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we do, right? So when someone gets in touch with us, we get their information, we pull the credit, we evaluate the credit, and we give them, you're either, yes, great, perfect, good shape, we can move forward, or, hey, guess what? There are a couple of challenges here. These are the things that we need to do. Did you know about this particular delinquency? Did you know about this particular charge? Sometimes no, I did not know at all.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we need to get in touch with that creditor, and we need to make some, petition them to make some adjustments, or we need to build credit, right? So part of that is sometimes people call us and they just don't have credit, that's okay, but we need to start working on getting some credit so that you can be evaluating, get a credit score so that you're in a position to be able to not just buy a house, but also do the other things that you want to on the financial side of your life.
Because some people may see, I don't need a credit card, or I don't need a car note, and they pay for everything with cash, and they think it's great. It's like, well, that is great for you as an individual, but when you look at going for a larger purchase, right, in which you don't have all that cash, creditors base you on your history.
Absolutely.
And it's and for some people they may think, well, it's I can always make my payments. I make this, and it's like, well, that, but you also have to take into account creditors see a lot of people.
That's right.
You see a lot of inquiries to get a loan to do X, Y, and Z. We have to look at it from an approach that is uniform, that we know and we can trust. Mm-hmm. And so while word is great, we also have to look at that credit. And so the financial, like you said, the financial literacy, the financial education of people is huge from y'all's side of things, is saying, great, you've done well, you've done this. Let's take X, Y, and Z steps to start working and building to something that we can get on paper, and we can get tangible, and we can move forward.
No, and I think that really starts, I was fortunate growing up in a household that was, financially minded, right? They were in the finance business, and my other grandfather was principal of Ashruma High School, and so he was his own entrepreneur in his right. But there are a lot of families that don't have that financial literacy discussion, right? The mother and the father maybe just don't have that kind of exposure to that, and that's where I think it's through the educational process, children, young adults need to get educated because again, it can really set them back. I mean, it can really make it very difficult for them to be able to achieve some of the dreams that they have just because of some lack of knowledge and a few missteps.
A lack of knowledge and a missed step they could have taken at a young age that would have played, massive dividends in the end. Whether it be, taking step A and holding on to that line, that specific account for so long and doing everything right can build you up in the long run. Or if you didn't, now you got to start from ground zero.
Right. And even below ground zero.
Or below ground zero. Because we have no history of you.
That's right.
You just existed to us.
Yeah, and then you see the payday loans and those types of finance type structures that are very detrimental to somebody's ability to be able to even get to zero.
Right.
They stay blew out my shoe.
Yeah. And it's starting in the education system, starting at a young age and telling people you can start taking more steps to better you in the long run. It's kind of where we can start. But it's also, how do we reach people where they're at and say, hey, come into the office or Zoom or Skype or whatever. Let's sit down. Let's talk about your financial situation. Let's educate you. And while you may not be ready today, let's start putting into steps where you can be ready tomorrow or next week or next month or next year. And that is so huge from a business standpoint, whether you're a lender, a banker, or whatnot, to educate your customers. Because in the end, if you educate them and you teach them all this stuff, they're going to come back to who taught them.
And that's really what we do. We have a credit scoring process where we can look at how people build credit. We say, if you do these things, your credit score will be adjusted to this over time. So it may take us 3 months, it may take us 6 months, and we put them in a process. We touch base with them every month and say, look, how are we doing? Did we hit the steps that we needed to? And those folks that are committed to do that, they sail through that process, and 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, however long it takes, we're certainly willing to work with folks to help them achieve that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that about what y'all do and what y'all bring to the table with GMFS is that whole inclusive picture. It's not just a single product, it's a process. And like you said, changing lives,
Absolutely.
That's what y'all are about.
It is. It really is. It's something that's very significant to us. And we've been very fortunate to be involved in this communities for as long as we have. I grew up in Baton Rouge and raised my family here. Got my oldest daughter having twins soon, so
you're not going anywhere, is what you're saying.
Well, I need to get them back here. They live in California, but
or
at least closer for that matter.
Yeah, got to pull them back.
Otherwise, my wife won't be here much.
So as we're starting to kind of wind down the show and get towards the end of it, I have a set of bullet questions, but by no means are they short answers. Over the course of your career and over the course of your adventure with your businesses, you've probably gathered a lot of lessons along the way. What are some lessons that you've learned throughout this journey thus far?
I think the number one thing is you need to treat people fairly. You need to be honest with them. You need to be compassionate. You need to put yourself in a position where you maybe reflect what their challenges are. You need to build a culture that provides people an opportunity to be successful. And in doing so, people will thrive.
Yeah, that's 100%. It's that building the culture, building your team, building your family within the business, and people love it. So what is something that you did as a kid you wish you still could do today had no one stopped you?
Wow. What I did as a kid, no one stopped me.
Yeah, had no one stopped you, what is something you loved doing as a kid that you wish you could still do today?
Well, I mean, most of the things I did as a kid, I still do today. So,
no one stopped you.
That's right. And so, that's a good question. I don't really know. I don't really have anything as a kid that I mean, physically. I wish I was a little bit stronger and faster and more agile. But
Still had that kid physical mobility.
yeah. But no, I mean, as a kid, I had a great upbringing and was fortunate to do a lot of different things. So more time, right?
Yeah.
Somebody hadn't stopped me from summer vacation. That would have been great.
No, honey, we have to stay home and work on the business.
That's right.
So was there ever a point in your career where you wanted to like stop or throw in the towel?
No. There was a time in 2007 that was probably from a business. Well, I'd say 98 and 99 were two very, or that 8-month period with United Companies was a very difficult period for emotionally, for not just me, but the family. It was grandfather's business, and it ultimately ended in bankruptcy. And so that was a really tough period. And then 2007, just merely 7-8 years after that, our GMFS hit a really tough time as an industry, and we went from 165 employees to 40.
Oh wow!
And it was we lost all our capital in 2007, and we had to recapitalize. We bridged it along the way, and I would say that was probably the hardest period of time. Looking at people in the face and saying, we can't have you anymore. Like we don't have a room for you anymore. And it's not you. It's more us, but it's more the industry. And I think I lost about 15 pounds during that 12-month period of time. I didn't sleep much, but also was not ever going to quit. I mean, I was going to go down fighting on that deal, and we're fortunate that we were able to bridge it. I mean, most of our competitors that were involved with us at that time went out of business. I think over 300 businesses that were comparable to ours were out of business during the 12-month period. And fortunately for us, we started building back in the middle part of 2008 and hired many of those folks back, which I'm really thankful that they're willing to come back. But many of those folks came back, and so we went from we started at 24, went to 165, back to 40. Now we're at 320, and so it's been quite a ride.
Yeah, it's been incredible. And what was something you did to kind of tell yourself, no, you can't quit? What was that overcoming factor?
I think fear of failure.
Okay,
it really was. I was like, I remember talking to my dad, and I like going, I can't fail.
Yeah.
I can't fail.
I've got to do whatever I need to do to make this business succeed. Whether we go from 160 to 40 to 10 to 4 to just me, you got to make it happen. We got
to be successful. We got to succeed. We got to get across. We just had to get from where we were to another spot so that we could start building back. Yeah, which is from a startup standpoint, for example, those entrepreneurs that start their brand, they have to have that mentality too. We can't fail. You got to treat this like you're all in. You can't halfway be into your startup and say, oh, well, maybe if it fails, we're just going to go to something else. I've seen some of those guys. Yeah. And for some, it's that risk aversion that they're afraid to take that risk. They're afraid to take that leap, and they don't know when to take that leap. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to is when do I take that leap? When do I jump off in the deep end and just go for it? And fortunately for us, we were pushed off the high diving board right into the deep end in 1999. We if nothing had happened there, we probably would have, kind of gone along the way there. But because something did happen, we were forced to start the business. Yeah. And so then once we were all in and 7 hit, we're like, hey, we got to keep paddling. We've come too far now. That's right. And keep paddling here. You get to that point when you've come too far that the difficult moments just say, maybe a slap in the face, but we're gonna push through it. We're gonna push back. And I'm really fortunate. I get to be the guy that gets to talk, but I'm really fortunate with my partners that I have, and with Jeff Weston and Tom DeArmond and Billy Maxwell that started, and today we've got 20 people on a management call every Monday, and I'd like to name them all, but they're all equally important with relative to what they do and how they take care of the employees. And we have a very flat organization, and they're really instrumental in making sure that they not only buy into the culture, but they live the culture, and making sure that there's the things that we believe in and things that are successful for the company, gets pushed all the way through to everybody. Yeah, 100%. So for the final few questions, what do you love about Baton Rouge? I mean, Baton Rouge is home, right? I mean, so Baton Rouge is just the memories. There's just things that, I mean, I grew up in Westminster, right over there off of Drusilla, and every now and then I just drive through. I went to Westminster Elementary School until 6th grade, and every now and then I just drive through there, just kind of, remember the old days and all the families that lived in those homes. But the friends, just the number of people that I grew up with that are still here, and the relationships that we have, that, to have a relationship as a child or a young adult is different than a relationship that you're afforded when you meet somebody when you're 40 or 50.
Oh, 100%.
You just don't get the chance to have that kind of connectivity and time to spend together to build that relationship. And so being here and having those types of relationships for as long as I've had is something that's just critically important.
Yeah, I mean, having a friend from the age of like 2 or 3.
Yep.
You know everything about them. You know their history. You know their past. When you meet somebody when they're 40, you get 40 years of stories to get through, which makes a great opportunity to build some new friends because you're going to have endless things to talk about. But you don't have that connectivity like you do with somebody who's been around since you were born or been around since you were growing up in middle school, high school, whatever it may be. And so staying within that community is huge because you know all the relationships, you know all the people, and it's just home.
Absolutely.
And that's what I've asked that question many a times, and the response has always been the community, the people here, and it's just home.
Yep.
So for the final question, what can I do to help you?
Well, I appreciate this opportunity right now. I mean, this is a great opportunity for us to get a chance to visit with you on your show. And congratulations for all that you're doing. And
thank you.
We appreciate the venue, and we want to try to continue to promote GMFS to continue to have our employees successful, so we can continue to give back to the community that we love and continue to do as much as possible to make a difference and change people's lives.
Absolutely. And that's every single day y'all are doing one step more towards that goal, towards achieving that goal and accomplishing that goal every day.
And we have great people, and thank God we do. It makes it a lot easier.
Oh my gosh, yeah. People make up an organization.
People are.
At the end of the day, people are the organization, and everything they do during the day makes the organization all the better.
No doubt about it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you for taking your time.
Of course.
Busy day on this surprisingly chilly Tuesday. It's kind of came up out of nowhere. I think we're in the from the Louisiana temperature scale, we're in the 2nd or 3rd winter. I think it's somewhere along, because you have like a fall spring happen like last week was fall spring.
Yes.
Now we're in like our 3rd or 2nd winter.
Week before was
miserable. We haven't seen that in 40 years. I think they said it was. But I'm appreciative of your time and
thank
for
you
coming
very
on the show.
much.
I appreciate it. Absolutely. And for those listening or those watching, whatever platform you're consuming this on, I thank you, and I know our guests do. And so, you've listened to this latest rendition of the Patty G Show with me, Patty G, and T Brown from GMFS. Thank you all so very much for tuning in. And as always, this show is brought to you by Alvarez Construction. Y'all, if you want to go and find a place to raise a family, to build your dream, they do that for you. They are in the community. They're building dreams. They're building homes every single day. Check them out and tell them Patty G sent y'all. That's all we've got for this one. Thank y'all so much, and have a good night.